All right, it is 5:15, February 21st, 2023. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Jane, you want to do a roll call?
Rudolph?
Here.
Kroger?
Here.
Bielenberg?
Here.
Peterson?
Here.
Lindberg?
Here.
And Shaben is joining from via Zoom. So Shaben?
Here.
Thank you.
We've all been given the agenda. I don't think there are any changes since the last time they sent it out to us. Which, like yesterday was an adjustment, but that was the witching hour of something was changed or passed or voted on and signed, whatever it was. That was already on there.
We'll talk about that with the public hearing.
Okay. And state any conflicts along the way if anybody has them. So under the consent agenda.
We gotta do a motion.
Agenda.
Motion to
Okay.
accept.
Good thing you showed up.
Yeah.
So motion to approve the agenda.
Ward 1, always on top.
Was that a motion?
Yes, motion to.
Second.
Motion by Lindberg, second by Kroger.
Roll call Rudolph?
Aye.
Shaben?
Aye.
Kroger?
Aye.
Bielenberg?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Lindberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to consent agenda. And these are all passed under one motion and vote. Minutes of the 2023 February 7th meeting. Claims list number 1284 for the amount of $46,420.51. Expenditure and revenue reports for the month of January of 2023. Police statistical report for the month of January of 23. Renewal application for Hy-Vee Inc. Class B retail alcohol license. And a renewal application for Family Dollar Stores of Iowa LLC Class B retail alcohol and license.
I shouldn't say renewal. That should say new.
Should say new.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I wondered because that's the name. Okay.
Yep, that's the 1610 chat room.
Okay. So new application for Family Dollar Stores Iowa Class B retail alcohol license. Any discussion or anything about those?
One of our smaller claims lists.
Yeah, I know. That's
Which is
usually I have
good.
one amount
Yeah.
for one of those. It's usually a
Yeah.
check we're writing for 46 whatever, but that's nice to see a lower amount once in a while. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Rudolph, second by Bielenberg.
Okay. Roll call Rudolph?
Aye.
Shaben?
Aye.
Kroger?
Aye.
Bielenberg?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Lindberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up is present to be heard, the quarterly library update by Amanda Brewer from the library. Welcome, Amanda. You're in a lot better shape health-wise than the last time we visited. You were on
Yeah.
Zoom and you were a little under the weather. Glad to see you recovered. So.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just that time of year. And speaking of that time of year, I thought I'd take the opportunity, what I thought doing on my quarterly update is to talk a little bit about our accreditation that's coming up, that's due February 28th, and then also the long-term plan that we're required to do as part of our accreditation that the board approved at last week's meeting. Our plan is a 3-year plan that lines up with our accreditation, and the last 3-year plan, I would say we were 95% successful in getting everything completed on it. So we do use it as an ongoing working document, and I'm proud that we're able to tick off that list and keep going. So some of the things that we're working on for these next 3 years, that's our goal anyway. Obviously, funding is always a big factor. And, I deal with that, like after I set that goal. So, sometimes it's grant writing and private donations. So the first thing is we've been working on to actually get the exterior updated within this 3-year plan. And so we're still trying to get a second contractor to provide a bid. We've had one bid so far and we're having a hard time, I think, because the scope of the project is that it's not huge, but yet we feel it's big enough that we need to have an architect involved in the design of the project. So our second is to expand program for patrons. One of the things we wanted to do is to expand our summer camps during our last 3-year plan. This is the one thing that we couldn't do. COVID got in the way. So we want to continue to do that. Back up to speed in regards to our planning in the summer. And last year was a very successful summer. We're going to do things very similar to that layout and just add some more summer camps. We want to increase the number of books in youth homes, in youth home libraries. So that means people in our community who are in the low socioeconomic demographic areas. Many times they have few to no books in their own personal library. And so our goal is we get a lot of donated children's books. We have duplicates, or maybe they're just out of date, or not something that we want to add to our collection. And to so just storing those in the back room and giving them out just, at summertime, or if we have something special, is to actually create an ongoing program throughout the year where we would actively go out and create programs where we're giving those out. We started a little bit last summer by doing pop-ups at different parks, and it was very successful. So we want to build on that. And one of our summer programs last year was the Color Love Project. It's a partnership between the youth at the library and seniors at Elmcrest. And so we want to expand on that and also look at expanding that to Hanson House and more of it, not just focusing during the summer, but other opportunities throughout the year to engage with those individuals. Eventually, one way or another, I am going to get a book light bike for the library through some type of funding. And we have applied for grants for it. So far, we have not been in luck, but there's other grant opportunities that we're working on. So that would obviously be the best way for us to take those books and hand them out in the community and have those programs. But it would also give us a bigger presence in the community because we can take it to Art in the Park, and we can take it to the farmer's market, and we can actually check out books. Take it to the farmer's market is kind of our goal, and then check out books like the cookbooks and things like that that would apply to that format or that audience down there. So just again, increasing circulation in the library, and then we have our new logo, and we want to do some. We need to do some just internal rebranding, go through some of the material that the library has and get our new brand on it. We, right now on our south entry, we just have like a piece of paper stuck up with our, our hours. So eventually we'd like to get something in vinyl done with our logo and our hours. So it looks just a little bit more professional and better impression to the community. And I just identify ways that we can put that logo into the community, whether it's, one of the things that we're working on is we normally order summer shirts through the company that sponsors the summer program and comes up with all the artwork and things like that. And so this year we just don't like any of the artwork on the shirts, and so we're working with the Xander Inc. to not only get us shirts for our library, but to do it so that we can expand that and have people, we have a lot of people who see our shirts and they're like, oh, well, can I have a shirt like that? How do you get those? And this would give an opportunity for them to do orders in like April, May, and pay through their online store that Xander does, so it eliminates the library handling it. And then we would hand them out on our big kickoff at the beginning of June and then maybe beginning of June. And potentially then if the goal is to then, instead of us paying, the library paying for the shirts for the staff, that would cover our, expenses by selling those shirts. But again, it gets the message out about the library and the different things that are going on. And I think, but maybe I said it. I don't know, Xander, whatever his first name is, Alex or Andrew.
Alex.
Thank you. We don't work with him very often, so it's a good process, but he's been great to work with. And again, it's nice to keep those dollars local when we can. A couple other goals that we are working on is to really analyze our collection at the library. So we have, Elaine leaving, and just over the 7 years I've been here, we have a lot of people who have been big readers who have passed away or moved, and we have new readers and younger readers are coming into the library. Oh, it's great, it's exciting. But we need to do some more analysis on our collection and make sure that, do we really need to be ordering 3 Daniel Steels because we have that much, need for it like we used to? Or, can we go down to ordering 2 and shift those other dollars to ordering some new authors that our younger audience is wanting to read? So we're going to do some of that. We're continuing to expand in our junior and our adult graphic novel manga section. It's just a really growing type of reading format. And then a couple other things that we want to do is successfully onboard our new collection librarian. We went ahead and posted that internally because we felt that we would have some applicants internally. And so we have Elizabeth Scheckinger, who's in our adult service position. She accepted the position pending the final board approval. And so we will be looking at hiring for her position as the adult services librarian. So we kind of figured that we'd have some of that internal change. So we're trying to do it as soon as possible so that we can be proactive. So we want to onboard her, and then we want to move them some things in larger libraries. We have such a small desk in the back where we store things for like us. And we have so many growing book clubs. I think we have 7 now. So we have to have all this room for all these book club books. And then we have reserve items, and we've noticed that larger libraries, they have a system where they don't have the items on reserve. Like if Sharon had a book on reserve, she would go and she would look for, like, it would be the first digits of her last name and the first digits like of her first name, and then that would be her, and she'd grab it and come up to the desk and check out. So it would save us a ton of space without having to invest in putting money into the current structure that we have for the circulation desk, because eventually we want to create something different. We could just use a rolling cart, and it would be much more cost effective. And then we do just figure out how we can create more storage in the circulation area, create a space for a library of things. This is things like, okay, so he asked us, hey, would you check out the pickleball court? I said, sure, we'd love to do that. But we have a whole bunch of things like that. We have overhead projectors for computers, and we have different devices different like DVD players, VHS players, things that people can check out if they want to. And we're needing a place to store those, and it would be beneficial if it was on the patron side because they could see it and had better access to it, and then also free up some of our space on our side. So, and then just analyze library equipment, because some stuff is older, and do we really need to keep that? If we haven't used it in 7 years since I've been there, do we really need to keep that? So this is what we are going to be working on for the next 3 years, along with everything else that we do on a daily basis. And keeping in mind that we know that there's going to be some budget constraints coming along with some of the changes that are happening with tax levies and things like that. But at the library, we are known for one thing, and that is creativity. So I know that we will succeed one way or the other. We'll get a book bike, one way or the other. Harlan Library will have one. Questions? Any questions about our accreditation process that we're going through right now?
What's the funding needed for something like a book bike?
$6,500. But you can pre-order them. Most libraries do that because it's not just a bike. It's got the electric assist to it, because of the design, and that includes the bike, the apparatus with all the books that closes and opens, and then all the logo and design that you would put on it as well. And once we get the bike, we'll work on order the market. I heard City Hall has room. Is that right?
We're gonna be shot back.
So on your accreditation, how soon will you know the results of that? Or is it like instantaneous or?
No, they go through, but to send in a lot of documentation, board minutes, policies, we had to redo the long-term plan. Phil let us know before June 30th when our other one expires. And obviously, we want 3 years because that's the longest that you can get, that's the best you can get.
So they give us money back for that, right?
I think our library gets in maybe less than $4,000 for the accreditation process. But it also opens a lot more opportunities and resources for us. And gives us really good standards to measure ourselves by.
Well, anything's better than zero.
That's true.
Yeah. 4,000 go a long way.
All right, well, that's all I have. I guess I will see you next quarter.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Keep up the good work.
Next up is, so do you want to say anything about the public hearing that we're not going to have, Gene, or reason we're not having it, or just skip over that one and go right to 5?
I think it'd be, Jane and I can provide an update.
Okay.
Don't have to look much beyond the Des Moines Register to read up on some of this and a lot of other news outlets as well. The governor just signed into law last night, Senate File 181. This is to, we commented on this at the last meeting, been sharing information with you all. And this is to correct an error that was made at the Department of Management back in October. And that correction was not made until it got into session this year. And that was a $127 million mistake. And this goes back to the issues with some of the property tax reform back in 2013. And as part of these rollback changes between multi-residential and residential for this upcoming tax year, that valuations have to be redone essentially. So what was signed into law last night was to correct that error, and it's creating quite a tizzy with the 900 and plus other cities in the state. Essentially that means, as I look across the way here, that for finance, budget, and clerks, which then trickles down to all your city functions and services, we'll essentially be redoing about 75% of our budget that started back in November. Our earliest estimate is, again, these are estimates. So this Senate file, or what was passed in law last night, the order was that all county auditors have 15 days to provide new valuations. And this is all 99 counties and all cities. Those valuations will be less. Our best guesstimate is about 3 million. Again, these are rough numbers. We don't know this for sure. And we know that will have an impact on keeping a steady levy and what that will generate with property taxes. So that's what's impacting. And then the last piece of this is they've extended the certification deadline to April 30th. So they're now giving all cities a 30-day extension. That's why us, as well as many others, are just postponing the max levy hearing to essentially redo a lot of the budget. We anticipate that we'll need to be making come back to you with some recommendations on reducing expense. And obviously not wanting to impact any critical or essential services, which don't think we'll have to do that. But the growing concern is not this next year, but with some of the other property tax legislation that's being introduced with this legislation and has been talked about a few years. That's the growing concern, is the restriction on, don't have a lot of levers in which cities, municipalities can generate revenue. And obviously property taxes is one of those main. I don't have this exact, but I believe Iowa is one of 6 or 7 states in the country that with the state level, they don't share any of those general fund dollars back to the cities. So along with this, I know that the League of Cities, as well as a cohort of other administrators across the state are looking to engage in some meaningful discussion about some, what do we want property tax reform to look like versus these incremental changes that, quite honestly, I think for most of the citizens and taxpayers, it confuses most of us. So that's a long answer to why we're postponing this public hearing. Jane, what would you want to add to that, or questions or comments?
Just wanted to be transparent with all the citizens that the reason why we're postponing is due to these changes, and that once we get the new valuation numbers and we rework the budget, those numbers will change, and we just like the right thing in front of everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Happy news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Under 5, then other business, under the first one is receive and file the minutes of the February 15th, 2023 Public Health and Sanitation Committee meeting. Is there a motion to?
Motion, second.
Motion by Kruger, second by Rudolph.
Did you call the meeting to order?
Roll call, Rudolph.
Aye.
Shaven.
Aye.
Kroger.
Aye.
Bielenberg.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then I think out of that meeting, the next item is to receive a request from Public Health regarding wastewater surveillance testing. I think that is why there was a nice young lady here to talk to us, Lori Hope, Public Health.
Hello, everybody. How are you tonight?
Good.
How are you?
Yourself?
So we were approached by Dr. Michael Pintella from the State Hygienic Lab to be the one city in the region to do wastewater surveillance. After some discussion, the reason why is I feel like we are pretty representative of the region. We have a nice mix of rural and urban area. We have 5,000 plus people here in Harlan, so it makes for a good representation for what's going on in our county. Clearly, wastewater surveillance isn't possible when you have rural septic systems, when you have individual septic systems, so you're counting on a bigger area to try to see what's going on in that particular region and in Harlan specifically, thinking that would be representative of the whole region. The region is 12 counties, southwest Iowa, 12 counties. So Dr. Pintella and I had a good conversation, and he politely asked us to consider it. And so I took it to the Board of Health, and, to try, at Jean's request, let's get, the Board of Health to weigh in on that, and we did. And they did vote unanimously to suggest that that would be something we would consider here in Shelby County. The advantage of wastewater surveillance over other surveillance, and I will say we do other surveillance through looking at, through many illnesses. We look at case loads, how many cases of a specific disease are coming through, how many hospitalizations, and how many fatalities. You look at those things. But that requires knowing patients and knowing their information. Wastewater surveillance, you don't have to know anything about people, you know about a population. And so to me that is less invasive, more confidential to look at it from that perspective. It also is very cost effective. It doesn't cost much, won't cost us anything. We'll send a sample weekly to the State Hygienic Lab. They'll do their thing and find out what we have in our wastewater. There's no real risk for the person who's collecting the sample, because whatever is in that wastewater, as far as the infectious diseases we're talking about, are already degraded. They are not capable of passing disease from one person, from that wastewater sample to a human. So that is a benefit. And it's an early warning system, which that's something that the Board of Health really is impressed by. You're not waiting for people to get sick. You can know ahead of time, 1 to 2 weeks, in fact. So it's like that canary in the coal mine, it starts chirping at you. And so you have this knowledge. This information from what Dr. Pantella tells me, will not be shared nationally, statewide. It will be for local consumption. So how do we want to share that information? From my perspective, the people I want to share most with are healthcare providers, healthcare system. So that if they know something is in our wastewater, they have a heads up and know what to do going forward. You know, treatments are based on strains of illnesses. And, you know, is it bacterial, is it viral? There's a lot of information that goes in, and more information is good information. It helps us be ahead of the game instead of behind the game. And one of the things that came out of wastewater surveillance is nothing new. I mean, there's over 600 sites nationally that do this already, 46 states. 5 sites in Iowa as of December, that could be more at this point, and 130 million people. So it's nothing new. It just gives us, you know, a better baseline knowledge of what's going on in our community. So I think that those are the major benefits of knowing, you know, low cost, high confidentiality, and you know, head start on a potential illness that you would know of, and knowing, and having our providers know how to treat as best as they can. So that is our rationale from the Board of Health and Public Health of why that's something that would have value.
Any questions?
Lori, I have a question here. In reference to reading some of these notes from prior to today's meeting, when you say you're looking for like diseases and infectious diseases and other variants, is this based initially from like COVID, where it states discussed COVID wastewater surveillance? Or are you just looking basically for any infectious disease that may be found?
So looking forward, we're looking for what might be coming down the pipe going forward.
Okay.
And it can be anything, truthfully. In New York, they found polio by doing wastewater surveillance. But initially, yes, was Iowa's renewed interest in doing wastewater surveillance based off of COVID, yes. But is that the end game? No.
Okay. How long have they been doing this? We only have 5.
1940.
There's only 5 cities participating in Iowa.
Yeah. Iowa has not pushed this until at this point.
What are you hearing is the major pushback for it then? I mean, like, why not wanting to do it?
I don't think it's being offered to too many areas. I mean, it's one per region. I mean, we have 5
Oh, okay.
or like 10 regions, depending on which map you use. So we have half of them, and this just started in, was that probably November, Gene, is when Dr. Pantella.
Probably November, December, I think is when we
Initially.
first got from you.
So, yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of pushback as far as wanting to do it. It's just a different way of doing surveillance, I think, that's less invasive.
So what, I guess, from a testing perspective, what's the length of time once a test is submitted until you get those results, and then what's the plan of action once you get the results? I mean, what's going to happen once you get them?
Well, I would look for direction of what our county wants us to do, what our city wants us to do, but the information, whatever the results would be, are released to public health, and then we can use guidance from the Board of Health or whatever entity wants to help give us guidance on how we release that information. As far as the amount of testing, I would like to be able to tell healthcare providers immediately, of course, if there was something of grave concern or of concern.
But what's the length of time to get those results back from the lab? Do you know?
Well, what would be involved is when you collect the sample, you send it by courier. That takes a day. You would give them at least a day at the state hygienic lab to do the testing, and then I would have it within a few hours once they have the results. So for sure 48 hours.
Because we also have to monitor and identify any testing that's coming out of our wastewater treatment plant, is my understanding. So we would have to get those results back somehow. Is that right?
I would certainly share them with you. Yeah.
And what's the cost for testing?
So there's no cost. The state hygienic lab is providing the kits at no charge, and it would just be time. So our ask would be to go ahead and collect samples at the wastewater plant at their convenience whenever it works for them. When they normally are doing other testing, just pour one more sample, let us know when it's ready, and we'll come down, pick it up, and send it off to the state hygienic lab once a week.
So city staff does the wastewater treatment plant employees, but do the testing? Okay.
Yeah, which, again, it's city staff doing that, putting labor into that, because it's going to cost them some time. We've got to have a designated person do that, correct?
And it will take us some time from public health to come collect, pick it up, and send it, but
Yeah.
it's, does the information you receive, is it worthy of that time, I guess, is, this cost-benefit ratio.
I think Tim Gesser is on too tonight, right, Tim? Can you hear us?
Yep, I hear you.
Any perspective from you, hearing this, looking at this?
I guess I got a couple of questions. You said something about this being early detection. How is that possible?
Because your digestive system will share information as it comes through your system. It'll share it before you actually start having symptoms. So it's the way your body is made.
But these, like if somebody uses the restroom, it doesn't get to my plant like within seconds. It's weeks. So by the time we would know anything's going on, it'd be 2 weeks later.
And yet it's still ahead of finding cases of sick people.
When I look at the first section, number 11 says wastewater surveillance currently is not mature enough to accurately reflect the amount of infection in the community. It's only an indicator of changes in the community and provides opportunity to detect emergence of new strains. So they're just looking for new strains to come out, but they're not going to be able to tell us the amount of infection.
Yeah, you don't know how much. It isn't quantitative. It doesn't say, oh, you're showing a big increase. It just tells me it's there. Now, over the course of time, will it improve and have that capability? I don't know, but if it does, that would really be helpful.
You were talking about like New York and then end up finding polio. This is only testing for COVID or SARS viruses, correct? They don't test for anything else?
At this time, they're starting off with that, but I can tell you that's not the end game.
So we're probably looking at more regulation down the road. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
they're just be looking at, is there anything else in the wastewater that would be of concern from a public health standpoint, a population health standpoint?
The only thing I see in here is it says that they're only testing for SARS virus, and then it says the hope is to test for influenza or RSV down the road. But you said that's not the end game. Do you know what like the end game would be? Like testing for everything
Or
or?
whatever might be coming down the pipe in the future.
Literally.
So
So,
that's more time and more testing on the wastewater plant, is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying it would be just the same one little bottle that you would fill. I mean, it's not more testing, it's more testing at the state hygienic lab.
It's a little bit more sample pulling, but you also said that it's no danger to the employee. I disagree with that completely. Anytime you mess with wastewater or anything like that, there is definitely a danger to everybody. That's why everybody has to suit up, wear gloves, and
Agreed. If you're talking E. coli, I 100% agree, because what goes out should never come back in. I agree. But as far as you being able to get, let's say COVID, you're not going to get it that way, 100%. Not going to get it through fecal material. That's
And
not
every
what I'm
test
saying.
I do, I have to report to the DNR. Every test, no matter what it is, I have to report it. So I have to have those samples back, and I have to have them back to me in a timely fashion. So I know you're saying this is leading to more regulations down the road, but I'm at a conference right now with 450 other operators and talked to multiple of them, and they're afraid the same thing I am, is we're going to be made to test for this more often, and it's going to lead to more regulations, which means more things to do to the plant, more manpower, more money for everybody.
And to that, I would say, Tim, if it becomes cumbersome and burdensome, at any point in time, the city council can say, you know what, we're just not getting the information we need or the bang for the buck. And, all you have to do is say, we're done.
Is there any testing, because I know the Board of Health approved this unanimously, which is a county board, which I get that. Is there anything within the county outside of Harlan that they've agreed to do this at any other cities or?
So this is the only mechanical plant in Harlan.
Okay.
So the other ones would be going out to a lagoon, and how much value would that have in a town of 200 or something?
Just curious, because I.
Yeah.
Tim, do you sample every day, or often do you sample out there now?
It all depends on what we're needing to do, but normally, on a normal schedule, it's twice a week, every Tuesday, Thursday.
And how long does it take you to sample what you're doing now?
Well, we have to start our samples the day before. They run 24 hours. That's something else I would need to know if this is a grab sample, composite sample, however, how much time. There's a lot of stuff I need to know before I can even start this sample, but usually it's about 3 hours. Just get samples all pulled and bottled up and ready to go on Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
So, I mean, I don't know who to ask, I guess, how much more time will this take, Lori or Tim, when you add this in? We're like at 200, did I see 200 milliliters or whatever it is we need to collect? How much more time do you think that's going to take you to sample this one sample? It just
In all honesty,
minutes?
the time is nothing. It's just a pour and sample into another bottle.
Okay,
But, I mean, the time is the minuscule part of it right
Okay.
now. They're only requiring one little sample bottle for now. It's gonna grow, it's gonna cost more, I'm sorry, I'm too much on every time we end up doing more tests, we end up getting more regulations, and that,
but I guess
good thing for anybody.
by doing it, we're not being forced to do it, we're doing it voluntarily. And I guess if regulations are gonna come out of this, they're gonna come out for everybody, not just Harlan. So I can't see, I guess, why, in my mind, I guess, and I don't have a vote, but I see time-wise, it doesn't sound like it's gonna cost the city a lot of time financially. And regulation-wise, I don't know how regulations are gonna come out of this, I guess. Lori's telling us if the city feels like it's something that we're not gaining anything, or it's costing us too much, we can get out whenever we want. So I guess I would, and the Board of Health saying yes, and I guess I maybe lean more towards the medical side of it, saying if we can solve a problem before it gets here, I don't know why we wouldn't do it, but that's just my 2 cents, I guess, so.
And from, I think, Board of Health perspective, they're looking at it more forward-thinking, for what's the potential going forward, not looking backward.
Any other discussion, questions for Tim, Lori? Do we need to?
Tim,
Yes, sir.
do we have to keep a second sample, like you probably do your regular water in case something comes back out of the ordinary? If you're having to report all this to DNR anyway, do you have to report back the results, or just say you took a sample?
No, I'll have to report the results to them, and no, I won't have to keep a second sample. I can go off the Lori's as long as she's getting me the results in a timely manner. But I also have to make sure I have the results by the time I have to submit my MOR every month also.
Do you send your reports every month, Tim?
Yes, I send MOR, which is a monthly operating report, to the DNR every month, which is our flows daily, any sampling we do, any testing we do, it all has to be turned back into the.
Oh, he doesn't probably wait till the end of the month to collect all his data. You probably populate your data as you go along, so you're not trying to collect it all at the end of the month and rush it in.
Correct, sir. That's the goal.
So do we need, the possible action is something needs to be directed to the wastewater treatment plant to do this or not do this? Is that where we're at, Gene?
Yes, when this first came up, just due to the nature of the topic, and I think it's important that people are educated about it, and I feel as a public wastewater plant, you as a governing body should have some understanding of this, as well as determine how we want to participate or not participate. Some of the research or some of the information I've gathered and provided to you also was, as Lori alluded to, there's 4 or 5 other sites in Iowa, and I heard from some of those. Some of those are continuing. One of them is going to stop doing it this coming year. It's been, as Tim alluded to, it's time-wise, it's not a significant time. There was just some questions as to what's been the overall benefit, and at least in the one community that's going to stop doing it. And again, I felt it was important, or we feel it's important that as it's a community decision to participate or not participate, why it's coming in front of you.
So the community that's no longer going to do it, they haven't had any negative responses, they just haven't found it to be beneficial.
Correct.
How long did they do it for?
I believe it was our 3rd or 4th year. But they're planning to do it through the end of this year. I don't know if that's fiscal year or calendar year.
I just don't want it to be burdensome to our staff and ask our staff to be doing one more thing and tracking one more thing and generating potential regulations. I guess that's where I stand. I'm all about public health, well community, all about that. So absolutely, if this is a benefit to our community at no cost, I would be for that. Again, I just don't want to burden our staff anymore. Your staff, you've got budget constraints as well. So you know how that works. Yeah.
How quick does this start? Like if we were to put it in, to give it a whirl to see, is it something like 2 weeks or like 5 months down the road, or?
It could be on your timetable, what you want to do. It could be pretty quick because all you need is the sample bottles and away you go, and a good understanding of what the process needs to be. So it could be fairly quick. Or there's reason that, be cautious and wait a little bit, make sure that the timing is right, that's okay too.
And something to consider would be that, if it's something you're leaning towards doing, that we do it for 90 to 180 days. There's nothing saying that, and we bring it back and revisit at that time, and if that's a crawl, walk, run approach, that I would offer that as something you want to consider.
In all honesty, if we're going to do it for 90 to 180 days or whatever, we just will not do it because you don't get very many, you can't see accurate results in that short amount of time, even if we're testing weekly. It wouldn't be worth gathering the results from that little bit of time, because you're only getting maybe 4 samples a week or a month. So that wouldn't be a whole lot of data you're collecting.
I think it would be more beneficial for us to see how much extra work it is on your plate.
On my plate, it's going to be maybe an extra 5 minutes pouring in the bottle. I don't know what kind of shipping or anything it has to do. It's not a big deal. UPS comes and picks up with us every Tuesday, Thursday anyway. I need to know if it's a composite sample, a 24-hour composite sample, a 7-day composite sample, a grab sample. That's stuff that I don't have any clue on. And then my reporting requirements, I'm going to have to completely rebuild my MOR to report this to the DNR because there is no section for that on there. But that's minute also. I can figure that out. Right now, the time constraints is nothing. My worry is time constraints further down the line. Because we're testing for this once now. how much more testing are we gonna add?
Lori, is that information that you'll be able to get from the state hygienic lab to provide to him, like the reporting and like what type of test it is?
I can ask Dr. Michael Quintella.
Would it be feasible then to maybe table this to next meeting for a possible action and get that information to Tim to see? I mean, if it's going to be,
Yeah, I
I mean-
think 2 weeks from your,
that way we just have all our ducks in a row. I mean, because he's got questions obviously we don't know, we can't provide him the answer to tonight. So, you know, I'm not opposed to it. I mean,
In all honesty, Kyle, knowing what kind of sample and how often, whatever, if it's a 24-hour positive or grab, it's not gonna change my opinion much. I can about guarantee you that. It's just, there's a lot of unknowns here that I don't know anything about.
correct. And I think that's probably why if we get some of those questioned, and I mean, I respect your opinion too, but, you know, if we can do good for the public as well, and if it doesn't turn out to be much, you know, we can agree to disagree on that.
No, that's fine.
Yep.
I agree.
I think the city that we were talking about that stopped doing it anymore, they said maybe 4 to 5 years they didn't see any real big benefit to it. So that'd be my fears. We spend all this effort doing it and it doesn't come back any beneficial locally.
Or we can put a motion on the table, say we try it until we hear back from our wastewater superintendent that this is becoming cumbersome, this is a problem, it's not as easy as anticipated to be, and
I mean, ideally, we would always get
stop doing it.
good results and never have anything to worry about.
I'm with you. I
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, that would be ideal. I'm not opposed to it either, but
Well, so does somebody want to make a motion to move forward with this, or are we going to table it for another 2 weeks or down the road?
I will make a motion to entertain this in reference to the testing for the wastewater treatment plant. I don't know if we want to put a contingency on there. Obviously, we could pull out whenever we want, correct?
Correct.
So Tim, maybe with that, we could follow up with you in 90 days and see how it's going. If it isn't cumbersome to continue or to withdraw, you know, at that time. At least give it a shot, I would say.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lindberg, second by Rudolph.
Roll call Rudolph,
Aye.
Shaven,
no,
Kroger,
Nay.
Bielenberg,
Nay.
Peterson,
Nay.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Motion failed.
Okay. Thanks, Lori, for your
Thanks, Lori.
Your time.
The idea.
okay.
Thank you.
Next up out of that meeting is a request to purchase a wastewater treatment plant service truck with a crane. There's some information in there. This is from the county, an option.
yes, this was one of this recommendation came from that committee meeting. Tim can give a brief overview as he did with that committee, but the committee's recommendation was to move forward with it. Something they've been looking at for a year and a half, 2 years. Tim, you want to just give that overview as well to the entire council?
Just a quick rundown, just same thing the paper says, we've been looking at it for probably a year and a half, 2 years now, when we started getting bills for just trip fees. We're running $900 to $2,500 just to have a company come out to pull a pump that, you know, we could have saved that kind of money ourselves on. So we started looking into it, got looking into mix. Problem was we couldn't find any close to us. Everything was California or hours or thousands of miles away where we couldn't go look at it or anything. So we just kind of put the feelers out with some of our sales reps and stuff to see if they could see it come across something, and one of them did, and it happened to be our county who was getting ready to get a new one. And the price is very reasonable. Basically what we want to do, we want a crane on our truck so we can pull any of our pumps that are down in our wet wells, down in our sludge buildings, those of you that have been out to the plant to see that stuff. We have to have cranes to pull out stuff, and we don't have them. The last problem we had rags stuck up in the bottom of our pump in the in-town lift station. Had to have a company come out, pull it. They pulled the rags out of it, set it back down, ran, and they were here less than 20 minutes and we got a $2,700 bill. So, to me, it's well worth the money to have our own truck to be able to do our own work. And with my background in pumps, I can basically teach our guys how to rebuild these on their own.
And this can be
There's still
used,
gonna be a fee for parts, but
Tim, this can be used for our street department, also for manhole covers, lifting of those, is that
street
correct?
department or wastewater department, we could do manhole covers. It'll save a ton of back pain and everything else. We can use the crane to lift it and get a magnet to lift manhole covers up when we need to. We can put them in the back truck, carry them around. About anything and everything we can use it for. When I first brought it up to the other superintendents, Roger Beason talked about maybe using it to pull something out of one of his fire trucks be inspected too, so it'd be used by about any department or for the city, so.
And looking on your proposal too, in 5 years, you spent well over $20,000 contracting somebody else to do that work that we could do ourselves. And I think last time we spoke, you said the life expectancy on the truck that you're proposing to buy is about 10 years. So you double that number, that pays for the truck, plus a lot of money left over for upkeep for your truck. So I think financially it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
And Tim,
And that fee that you see there, that is just their mobilization fees. That's none of their on-site training, nothing. That is just them to get to us and leave us.
Yeah.
Tim, you and/or your staff have driven this truck, correct?
Yes, my assistant superintendent has taken out, drove it, ran it. He's the one that went out, got all the pictures and stuff of it. I actually had my guys go look at it more than me because they'll be the ones in it, not me.
Oh, there's a picture of it.
And it functions as it's supposed to?
Yes, ma'am. The motor's been redone, transmission's been redone, whole front end's been rebuilt, and I believe the rear differential's been rebuilt too.
And it's even red, so.
So the counties had this, did they buy it new, where it was in '07 or wherever it was? Where you guys did not have access to this to use, they just use it all the time, it's never available to you guys now? Are they gonna replace it, I guess?
They're gonna replace it. I guess I've never asked them if we can use it. Usually it's a bridge crew truck, so it's out all the time with them,
Okay.
and especially in the spring and summertime. HMU does have one. They have a truck with a crane on it also like this, service truck. But the problem there being is 99% of the time when my pumps go down, it's Christmas Day at 1 in the morning or some time of day that it's not just okay to call HMU and say, hey, I need to get your truck now.
It's in the budget.
We didn't budget for it, but he has funds that he would be willing to cut back on to cover this.
It would not require a budget amendment. It would be between existing, there was equipment and repair, as well as within the lining that we've got 2 years. We won't spend that this year in the lining project, so it would not require a budget amendment.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
Second it.
Motion by Lindberg, second by Bielenberg.
Roll call, Rudolph.
Aye.
Shaven.
Aye.
Kroger.
Aye.
Bielenberg.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Thank you.
So is that, you'll be looking into getting that sooner than later then? Is that next month or 2 or 3 or?
It'll probably be here real shortly. They were actually wanting to know before March 1st so they could put on auction or not, so.
Okay. All right, thanks, Tim.
Have fun.
Okay.
Next up is first reading of ordinance number 2023-02, amending chapter 6908 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Harlan pertaining to no parking zones. Changes would include no parking on the east side of 19th Street between Durant and Willow between the hours of 12:30 PM to 4 PM, Monday through Friday during the school calendar year. This is the first reading of this ordinance. Have we had anything, I guess we haven't really, we kind of talked about it, but any feedback or anybody?
Yeah, this was originally introduced at the Streets and Alleys Committee meeting. We had discussion on it during last council meeting, and at your guidance, it then had an ordinance drafted to update this in the no parking section or ordinance. Continued feedback from the school. Again, Councilperson Bielenberg, and also with his SRO hat, and also in communicating with the superintendent and the elementary principal. So that the positive feedback we've had no concerns, at least from what's been reported out. But again, similar to some of these other changes on with these ordinances, this is one I would recommend 3 readings to, if there's any other public comment or feedback. We did have, as you may recall, with the report on at the last meeting, was questions around, would this be 12 months a year during, and we've modified this so it would be just during the school calendar year. And there was some question from one of the lawn care providers, which would assist them if they do the park on 19th during any of those hours. At least we've eliminated 3 months of the year where that would not be impacted.
Okay, is there a motion for the first reading, ordinance 2023-02?
Motion.
Second?
Motion by Peterson, second by Kroger.
Roll call, Rudolph.
Aye.
Shaven.
Aye.
Kroger.
Aye.
Bielenberg.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item C is consideration of the holiday lighting replacement on Cyclone Avenue in downtown. We had some information in our packet regarding that.
This was also introduced and discussed at the last council meeting, and bring it back to you as was discussed at that point and recommended by you. This would be, once again, to replace the Cyclone Avenue holiday lights, the ones that have been there that are quite dilapidated and brittle at this point. And there would be, the style would be similar to what's been replaced on Chatburn Avenue, as well as some of the south half of downtown here. These 23 fixtures would go every other light pole on Cyclone, similar to Chatburn, and then coming up in the downtown area is what the 23. And this updated, this is based upon their out-of-season pricing. So discounts, I don't know what percent.
Good. Well, it's good through the end of February. Actually, this is more discounted than what their discounted price list. So it's actually lower than what their discounted price is listed, but this is through February.
And again, we had considered doing this with HMU, and that was in front of the HMU board, and essentially it was saying there's HMU projects and initiatives right now than funding some updated holiday lighting. So that's why I bring it back to you all. So this cost is just $10,633, and in terms of how would this be paid for, we would, correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, but from what we budgeted with community economic development this year, and the other area was where we may come under.
Well, it wouldn't have to be paid for this year. We could order it this year, but it would not have to be paid for until after the 1st of July, so our new fiscal year. So they agreed with us to do that. Yeah, economic development and general government.
Yes. So for example, one of the items we budgeted for haven't had any participation, but there's funding there, was $4,000 a year for some demolition under, and if that's not used, it could be leveraged and put towards this, as one example. So that's how it would be intended to be paid for.
This count, though, you said is every other light pole?
Yes.
Not everyone, but every other.
Yes. Presently, on every light pole on Cyclone, but every other light pole on Chatburn. So this would mirror what's been done in Chatburn by going to every other pole.
They're just trying to reduce the count again, but
Yes. It could be to go every third or every fourth, but
Kind of nice to do every one, but
yeah. Each corner. There's a long block there.
so that's what bringing back to you as to what the actual numbers would be, as well as a consideration as to how we would fund it out of those two areas.
we've gotten some complaints from citizens that the current ones will look pretty bad.
What if we had no lighting on Cyclone?
It's an option.
I mean, I'm just
It's definitely an option.
throwing it out there. I mean,
It's an option.
It's not the end of the world.
Right.
Well, maybe, not to mine.
That's a lot of money for
It's
lights.
kind of our,
For just a certain part of the year.
a lot of people, I don't know if that's really an entryway to our downtown lighting, but I think it's considered as kind of an entryway to our downtown lighting.
And I understand that, and yes, they look nice, but in our current budget situation,
Right.
there are more important things in our community right now than Christmas lighting on Cyclone, is my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm with you there, Sharon.
And I'm assuming these prices are now, so like if we
These
try
are
to dig
now.
in a year, they could be twice that amount.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they will be
'Cause of-
quite a bit more. Yeah.
Generally, after the holiday season each year is when they're
Sale price.
Similar when you go to the stores and all the Christmas decorations are on sale. Same approach with, I've seen this for the last number of years. So if you looked at it a year from now, it might be somewhat inflated, but you're still going to, it's going to be below what the in-season rate is.
It should be 50% off after Christmas, right?
I don't set the prices. I just asked if they would work with us on, if we ordered them, if we would have to pay for them right away, or if we could wait until after the beginning of our fiscal year. We've done that with playground equipment also. Ordered it January, December, not paid for it until after July 1st, so.
So if this, oh, go ahead. If this doesn't go through, if we don't purchase these, then are we not putting up the old ones? Those are done?
Yeah, I think they're
I would not
done.
recommend we put the old.
So it'd be
back.
no?
Right.
And I guess it's,
Not to, you know, I just think it might look a little bit, you know, you have like Elkhorn or Erling or some small rural community that would have lights up, and City of Harlan does not. But
Just on that one street,
Yeah, we'll have lights, just not on Cyclone.
just not on Cyclone.
Oh, I thought you were like looking at, just in
This is
No,
just Cyclone.
just Cyclone, Kyle.
Cyclone and downtown. There'd be 15 on Cyclone and 8 downtown.
yeah, the one that would continue on Chatburn, and
Yeah.
there's some on the south
And
side
that's
of
also an
downtown where some of these
entryway
light
to
poles
downtown.
going south have the newer style. Those would continue.
Yeah.
When was the last
Chatburn's
time
an
we
entryway.
replaced anything?
No,
Probably been a
those
while.
were, I was in high school when those were,
Yeah, we tried to find
that was a long time ago.
previous minutes and believe when we were looking, when this
Yeah.
was initial proposed, to find out maybe when, and we couldn't find.
It's just been a long time since we replaced
Anything.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there a motion on this?
I'll motion that we buy them.
I'll second it, because I'd like to see it.
Motion by Peterson, second by Lindberg.
Roll call Rudolph,
It's a tradition in the city, I think.
Shaven,
Aye.
Kroger,
Nay.
Bielenberg,
Nay.
Peterson,
Aye.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Motion passed.
It's a democratic process.
That's the closest it's come down here, weighing in a long time, 2 votes. We're doing what we're supposed to do, so. Next up, City Administrator Report.
First and foremost, it's great to be here in person. I was remote last time, and I'm also have a lot more pep in my step than I was a few weeks ago. So great to be here and great to see you all. A couple of updates. We just heard today from the state that, and shared that with Todd's office as well, that we had done a pre-application for a property owner downtown for another Catalyst grant. That pre-application was approved at 707, it's the new Milk and Honey proposed location. That pre-app approval essentially invites a full application, similar to what was done at Jerry Henshide's building. This is the mirror, it's a carbon copy of what was that same grant. It's availability for $100,000 of state money for that catalyst. So it's inviting for a full application, and prior to submitting that, that would come back to council for final approval for that submittal. As if approved, we would become a fiscal agent and would ask for your review and approval prior to then. But we just got notice of that today and felt it was timely to share that with you. On the same topic, as far as downtown activity, the HHPC, which is the Upper Story Facade Committee, met with all applicants, saw, in my knowledge, the most requests we've ever entertained for, and I think that's tribute and testament to all the improvements and continued building improvements by property owners downtown has really been a spark to have everyone to continue to make downtown attractive. But we had over, in terms of local, as far as city match funds, in the first round of requests, the deadline was the end of January, and that was over 200,000 of local match requests, the most we've ever seen. Great problem to have. What we budgeted the last number of years and what we've continued to plan to budget is, again, assuming that once we redo numbers, is in our initial round, we plan to fund 50,000 of local match towards that. But through interviews and also talking to some of the building owners who are scaling back and doing it over phases, as well as one or two that either dropped out and one or two that didn't qualify based upon the requirements of the program. Expect at the first meeting in March, we'll have the recommendation to approve 4 properties at 58%. Even with scaling those back and doing it in phases, in terms of our local match would be 58% of their request. But we'll an update there, and we'll have that in front of you at the March 7th meeting. We had an airport commission meeting this morning, and it's been on the plan to do an ALP, which is an airport layout plan update. The last one was done in 2011. And that plan guides the next 10 to 20 years of airport planning and development. And it's a significant undertaking, and it's the scope of it is broadened to become a full scope ALP, requiring doing updated surveying, obstructions, GIS flyover, and we'll have that, should be before you the end of March, early April. This was stated in our CIP plan, which you've all approved, and it would be our large airport project, it's a planning project that would be done over the next year. So again, you can expect that probably end of March and April to see that grant proposal as well as the engineering agreement. We had a wonderful snow event on the 16th, and it sounds like we have a little bit of fun weather coming tomorrow, but maybe on the fringe of it. But the event a week ago, which was the 4 to 5 inch of snowfall, really appreciate again citizens' cooperation with helping with getting off the streets. It really helped with snow removal and getting them cleared curb to curb. And once again, passing along from our street department that the new blower has been just to continue to be a fantastic addition. All of the hauling from the downtown area was done, I think it was by 2 o'clock last Friday, which that's just because of the quality of the new blower, the width of it, very little waste. It's not getting in the dump trucks. So pass along again appreciation for that equipment. Definitely makes the job easier and more efficient. Last 2 items. We're getting real close on participation in the income survey through SWIPCO. This has been a voluntary survey we've had out now for a few months. And I think we're probably down to 10 or 15 surveys need completed yet. And based upon the qualification, if our what's called LMI or low and moderate income would be above a certain threshold, which right now it's showing that in the results, it would qualify us for some additional funding through CDBG for our sewer lining project, which we've allocated some ARPA funding towards. We're holding off on that to see if we may qualify for up to an additional 500,000,
Yes.
600,000, I'm sorry, of CDBG funds, which would get a significant dent in our, in really, all of our less than standard sewer lines, get them lined and get them up to excellent condition. And then
Citizens can take that survey, they can go online to the cityofharlan.com, and there's a QR code that they can take the survey with, or you can go to our Facebook page, and it's 3 simple questions. It's not a lengthy survey, it's just 3 questions. I appreciated it. We could get those last 12.
And I think they've been doing some phone calling as well,
Yeah.
but getting real close to getting it completed. So update on that. And then lastly, we've been working with the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department looking at what a unified law enforcement agency could look like. We've continued with those discussions and into one unified agency. I know the Sheriff's here tonight, so we've sat down and spoken with him a number of times. And we're moving in that direction. We are intending and plan for a public meeting on Thursday, March 9th. That'll be at 6 p.m. at the Turkelson Center. And that was reported on at the Board of Supervisors meeting this morning. And we'll certainly get that to the press as well. The intent of that meeting is to highlight what that may look like, what we believe some of the benefits would be, and address any questions as well from the public.
Did you say March 9th at 6?
Thursday, March 9th at 6 p.m. at the Turkelson Center.
Thank you.
And with that, that's the updates I have this evening. Good to see y'all.
Question, in reference to that meeting, do you request us as a governing body there to answer
Yeah,
questions?
we'll post it as we'll post it so we're, in terms of open meetings, so if we have quorums there as well as with the Board of Suits, it would just be an information session only with no action taken.
Okay.
Most certainly.
Questions from Gene, for Gene?
Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
It's no fun being sick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Under my report, I have nothing. Beautiful. It's a quiet week or two in the mayor's office. Although I did attend a Boy Scout meeting a couple nights ago.
Nice.
Very informative. Scouts that were there. I don't know if they learned anything from me, but I did talk a little bit. So it's always interesting to talk about being the mayor. They think it's a lot bigger deal than I do, so that's okay.
You gotta attend the conference banquet.
What's that?
You guys sit across from me at the Shelby County
I did. I'm not going to steal any of Todd's thunder. That was a great night. So we'll move right into that. The Shelby County Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Todd Boleen.
Well, thank you. Yes, this past Friday night we had our annual awards banquet, and thank you to all who attended. We sold out at the Country Club. They did a fantastic job with the evening, with setting it up. The food was fantastic, and had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but other than that, things went really well. Had some fantastic donations. Appreciate everybody who bid on those auction items. That's helps us fund the programs that we do. And so this year, our nonprofit of the year winner was Concerned Incorporated. Our new business of the year was Osborne Realty. Our business of the year was Hanson House Senior Living, and there's just a perfect example of Gene knows, go back to when we put a little bit of land up and said, okay, if you guys just build here and build right, we'll forgive that loan of what we gave that land on, and look what we have now. So just fantastic. And then our Citizen Volunteer of the Year this year, we actually had two. We had 2 people who were, nominated, and we just couldn't come up with one over the other. So one was Jenna Hucka from here in Harlan, and the other was Karen Schluter from Shelby. So congratulations to those 2. And again, just want to thank the community. It was a great night. Couple of things, we also had a legislative coffee then last Saturday, and it was very well attended. Of course, you can imagine that the pipeline was the primary discussion, but there's also some discussion regarding the tax cap that could possibly be coming our way, and how that would not only impact our cities, but also impact our county, and impact our services. So I'm expecting that'll be part of the discussion here in a couple of weeks in March, and that one will be back out at the chamber, that legislative coffee. And then one other thing, Friday, March 3rd, and it's going to be from 11 to noon. So Senator Grassley has a new regional district representative. His name is Jonathan Blatt, and he's going to hold a town hall out at the atrium. He's inviting all of the public to come and comment on what they would like to see in the 2023 Farm Bill. The Farm Bills come up every 5 years. We will be doing one this year, so people can come out and just comment on anything they'd like to see included in that bill, then he'll get that information to Senator Grassley. So that's Friday, February 3rd at 11 o'clock out at the atrium. And that's it for the chamber for tonight.
March 3rd.
Excuse me, March 3rd.
Correct.
Yes.
February 3rd will be the fast.
February 3rd is gone. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
HMU, Joe Ruschenberg.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Just a few items. Just updates. We have offered the fractional part-time position for cashier to a candidate with the start of March 6th. And with that also, we've offered the fractional part-time position of staff accountant to the candidate with the same start date of March 6th. We're just kind of working through some of the pre-employment information or documentation at this point. Other item, or last item, is update on our new water project. I kept talking, we're trying to get that thing bid here end of January, 1st of February, but we kind of ran into a little bit of a snag. Was on a call with USDA last week and our engineers on McClure that's working on the plans. There's the Buy American, Build American, or BABA, how they refer to BABA. We originally had a letter of conditions for that project of $5,364,000. Engineers' estimates with some scope change and, of course, material prices and everything going higher. Their last estimate in December, they had it at about $6.8 million for the project. The problem that we're running into, I guess we were looking at, once we bid that project, we would go back to USDA. They would come back with additional funding for that overage. But with the Buy American, Build American guidelines, that would kick the whole project into that, our original $5 million project or amount, that would have been exempt actually from the Build American, Buy American. But if we got to go back for that additional funding, since that project, we got it, it was in the works early enough that we didn't have to abide by those guidelines. But if there's an overage and we go back for additional funding, that throws the whole project back into that guideline, which we're looking at probably a 10 to 15% increase of the project. Also additional engineering going back, changing the specs and the plans to abide by those guidelines. So currently we're trying to look at maybe an alternative way to fund that overage through some of that additional money, since we've raised our rates already as December 1. Our actual permanent financing won't come into effect until the project is done, to where we'd have to start making payments. So maybe utilizing some of that additional funding from our rate increase. We do have some CD proceeds, and then also that $500,000 grant that we received. We're hoping that we can fund that separately, so we don't have to go back to USDA. Then that would, I guess, exempt us from having to abide by those guidelines. So we're kind of in that process. Like I said, we had a Zoom call or conference call last week with USDA and engineers So we're trying to work through that now, so hopefully we can, be able to work through something and try to stay away from the guidelines just to help with savings on the project, so. So we thought we were to a point where we get it bid, but now that came up, so we're working through it. But that's the only items I have, I guess. Is there any questions for me?
Good luck on that.
I know, it's always, it's good to get the funding, but there's
Yeah,
a lot of
grants are great.
A lot of
Strings,
strings
yeah.
most of the time, so no problem. Glad we got what we did, but we'll get through it. All right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Joe.
Joe.
Any comments from the public? From council? Meeting adjourned.